Everyone, welcome to season 2, episode 3 of my voiceover interview series with our next voice actor, Greg Vinciguerra. So, Greg, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Greg Vinciguerra. I'm a voice actor and I flunked puberty. I play a lot of little boys. Actually, I also play a 243-year-old alien, and I think she's my oldest. A lot of people sleep in my grandma voice, but hey, pick up Frontier's Reach. You can hear it for yourself.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm really glad I pronounced your last name right. Yeah, so, I guess just to get this question out of the way, the question I'm guessing you were expecting. So, what got you into voiceover, my friend?
It is a very long and complicated story that seems to have a different answer every time I'm asked the question. So, I, I guess uh, for you, I'll say, okay, so I was in school and I always wanted to make announcements. And for the very, very, very last parent teacher night, I was in the National Honor Society and they actually let me get on the mic and it was great. But I'm like, how do you get to be the guy who does the announcements in school? I wasn't popular, but who was really?
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I've ever met a voice actor who was popular in school. There's a really rare to come by.
Like he put me, I've always wanted to be on a mic, but never got the chance. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I can just take it and do this.
Hell yeah. So,
Actually, I worked at a grocery store as a teenager, and there was a there were advertisements that just come on the intercom. I'd always wonder who made those, and how do I get to be that person?
fair enough. And if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been doing voiceover for?
Again, that's a number that changes all of the time. You could say 17 years, you could say 14 years, you could say 12 years. Not because I'm bad at math or anything, it's just because it's really complicated. I've been repped for 3 years. Maybe it started 3 years ago. Maybe
Uh,
it started when
well,
I
it's
stopped
fair.
being an artist and decided to commit. It's
That's fair. It,
yeah.
it really depends on like, because I usually have two different answers. One is how when did I start doing like casually, like semi professionally, and then the second one is full on professionally. So like when I made demos or had an agent, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I would consider it. But honestly, 17 years, that's quite a long time. You've aged quite well, my friend. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, elixir of youth. Always drink your water and not much else.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. I'll drink more water.
Lots and lots and lots and lots of water.
Hell yeah. So yeah. I'm gonna make the bold assumption that you watched a lot of cartoons in your and video and play a lot of video games in your time. If so, are there any cartoons, especially that like you know what? Because you mentioned like the school announcements kind of inspired you, but were there any like cartoon characters or cartoon shows where you're like, you know what, I want to do voiceover for cartoons or video games or anime, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, like where do I even start? If you're a kid and you have a television, chances are you're gonna be watching a lot of cartoons. Like really love Pokemon and Digimon and all those anime from like all those shonen anime for 10-year-olds. I what I could sing. What was the name of the song? The song from the Steven Universe movie, the opening one, where every character singing. I could do like everybody but Garnet and Greg. Ironically, I can't imitate Greg Universe, but the Happily Ever After, that's the name of the song. I can do most of Happily Ever After by myself.
That's really impressive, honestly. I've seen the song because a lot of my friends watch Steven Universe. I still have to catch up. I haven't watched it in a while, but I hear it's really good. The last episode I remember in vivid detail was, I think it was the first one. Cookie Cats. That one. That's the one I remember
Yeah.
most vividly. And I saw like a clip
Charles
from
Townsend's really struggling to keep his voice high, and I'm just thinking,
yeah.
well, I could get for free. It's not going to hurt my voice. It's going to hurt it maybe if they try to make me go too low. Like, oh well, dang, I have to grow up.
This is
Darn.
there's this one clip from the first episode of Steven Universe to like Steven now, and I've noticed that Steven kind of gets nicer throughout the series because in the first episode
Oh,
it was a
yeah, all
menace
about this, like character development. Like, whoa.
because he was just a menace, like. But he was like he was a nice kid, but he had like a backbone to it, which I'm not saying is a bad thing whatsoever. But it was just really funny with him just roasting that I forget what his name is, but he was like the cashier guy. He's got like crazy hair and like really droopy ears. I forget what his name is. It's like guy in a blue shirt.
Mars.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes.
Yeah, if like roasting him like in the first episode. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but just speaking of Steven Universe, since you so graciously bring it up, do you have any favorite characters in Steven Universe?
Pearl. Like, full stop. Pearl is the best gem. A lot of people want to hear me voice Peridot though, and they're not wrong. I can definitely voice Peridot very well. Quads or decently. Not
Um,
that if you've only watched the Cookie Cat one, you haven't don't even know who Peridot is, probably.
I'll get there
Sorry.
eventually. But I know a lot about Steven Universe, like a little bit, like all the random details, but I haven't seen the show. But I do know that Nicki Minaj voices a character in Steven Universe at one point in time. It gets replaced because I imagine Nicki Minaj is like really expensive to get her behind the mic.
Because they can't afford her.
Exactly.
But
So
yeah, you play Sugalite, and my favorite song actually appears in that episode. It's called "Strong in the Real Way," and Pearl sings it, and she crushes it. And her voice actress Dee Dee Magno Hall actually played my favorite character in my favorite mainstream musical, Wicked. She was Elphaba's sister Nessa, who's basically this stalkerish blank slate. I love her. You can do whatever you want with her in the fan fiction because they don't really do much with her in the musical, and I guess by extension the live action movie, and which also gets me thinking, why do they got to make them all live action? It would have been so good animated.
I didn't know that she was in Wicked before. That's awesome. I
Yeah,
watched Wicked like
a
ages
lot
ago. That's awesome.
that Rebecca Sugar and them got for Steven Universe. They're from Broadway. Like, I think it was Susan Egan. I think she plays Rose Quartz. She originated Belle in the stage Beauty and the Beast, if I am not mistaken. It's been a while. I haven't been able to afford to see a lot of musicals since I lost the Sirius XM connection I was leeching. But they had a whole Broadway station, and it was glorious. If I ever get a lot of money, I'm going to sign up to get my Acu Broadway back.
Oh
They
yeah.
actually have mine where I could listen to musicals, but I kind of like the way they curate it just on the regular old radio version.
Also, I just gotta ask. So you mentioned Broadway actors in Steven Universe, and I mentioned Nicki Minaj a bit ago. So I was gonna ask, what is your it might be a bit, this might be a little bit of a deep question, but like, what's your opinion on like Broadway actors and like like full on like straight up mainstream celebrities being in like voice actors? Do you what's your stance on that? Because I know a lot of people kind of hate that, and some people really like that. I'm sort of like in the middle. I'm more like if they can voice act and can perform well, then that's the best thing at heart. It doesn't really matter where you came from or where you are now. So I was gonna ask like, what's your kind of stance on it?
Honestly, I don't like it. I don't like selling things on a name. I have more respect for using a Broadway actor because they're not selling on their name to anybody but people like me, really. Like who can yeah, it's they're still relatively obscure, and they are wicked skilled at what they do. Like, to do 8 shows a week like that, it really, like, yeah, that takes a lot of stamina, mad respect. Some celebrities I really respect. They're good at what they do. They seem like really down to earth, nice people, and that's really what gets me is, are you a good person rather than are you a popular person? Because there's some celebrities you hear nothing but great things about, like Keanu Reeves, Brendan Fraser, like those names there. It's like, yeah, I would gladly be like, yeah, I would watch a movie for them. But then there's others, and you're like, okay, I don't know why people like this person or who decided that their name would sell things, but I wish that I wish somebody different were in charge of making that decision. Also, it's a matter of, if you never bank on unknown talent, how can anybody get a name?
Mm.
Like, where do names come from? They have to come from somewhere, and if you never take any risks, then how's anybody got a shot at much anything?
Yeah, very, very, very true. It's like the industry is really weird because you want to use new talent, but the way to use new talent is for them to kind of build themselves like a bit of resume. But for them to do that, they have to be taken on to projects, and it's kind of like a little cycle. And so it's like, oh, okay, push up, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
I'm just trying to think. Do I even have any friends who watch movies based on who is in them? It's like I don't think I'd do that unless it was like my brother or something or my mom that got cast in this movie. Like, yeah, buy me 10 tickets to see my mom in the I don't know, some
that's
movie about cleaning. She likes to
yeah.
clean.
Because I personally I don't. It's really hard for me to like think of like favorite actors on screen. There's a lot of good actors out there, but I find it really hard to like pick one or a couple. I know like if there's like a voice actor in like shows, I would definitely watch for them. Then I kind of relate to that part, but for live action stuff, I find it really difficult for some reason.
Honestly, it's for me it's like kind of like being demisexual except for actor recognition. It's like a lot of actors are very skilled, but I'm more likely to to support them because I know they're a good person and I keep hearing they're awesome to work with, rather than their actual acting skills, which sometimes it seems like okay. But when you can have both, when you can have you're a nice person and you're a really skilled actor, why should they not have fans?
That's very true. That's the best damn analogy I've ever heard in my life. Demisexual for actors recognition. I love that. So yeah, can we quote that?
Like
Yeah, I'll put it in the
yes,
description.
like being demisexual, but for actor recognition. I am not demisexual for relationships. I am very arrow ace.
Fair enough. Let's go. Um, I was gonna
Maybe
ask. Oh, what was that? Sorry, you cut out a little bit there.
demi platonic,
Able
which
to,
I
yeah.
guess is where
Hell yeah.
I'm
Um,
a friend until I friended you or something. You put in your hours and then you're friends with me. I don't know how this. I'm a slow burn.
fair enough. Yeah, if you want to like really like create those bonds, you don't want to be like a one and done kind of deal. Yeah.
I don't do friend one night stands.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it. Yeah. I was also gonna ask. We talked about cartoons, but did you play any like video games when growing up? And like, did you like have like any favorites?
Oh, I bought so many video games. I got a backlog like 300 things long. I don't know how I will ever finish them. But what could Super Mario 64 had minimal voice acting, but boy oh boy did I love that game.
Hell yeah.
And what else? I'm going through God or going through Shadow of the Colossus right now. I'm on the 12th. That one's got like minimal voice acting. Phoenix Wright is that's one that I would voice act too. All the old RPGs, I name people curse words and then talk for their dialogue. That was always fun.
Oh,
Sometimes
Ace
I'm
Attorney. That's the one. Yeah.
like take a Final Fantasy that doesn't have voice acting and then put some voice acting in it and see what happens. And sometimes it's a mess and sometimes it's awesome.
Yeah.
So part of me is like, I wish there were options so you could turn off and on the voice acting and do it yourself. But also it's fun to listen to what people to the actual actors' performances, just a study to get inspired by it. And then sometimes you just go like ghost stories and then dub over nonsense. That's always a fun game.
I love ghost stories. It's so good.
Ghost stories was awesome. There should really be more dubs like it.
Yeah, but for that to happen, they have to fail miserably in Japan, and I kind of don't want that to happen.
Or I don't know, some anime you can clearly tell that they're writing it in to make a quick buck.
Yeah, but like
Like
ghost
not
stories is like a ghost stories for me. It's a time capsule. There's a lot of things that was said in ghost stories that cannot be repeated.
absolutely not, which is why I'm thinking if they should remake anything, they should just take another really lousy budget anime and just give the actors carte blanche. Then we'll get another time capsule of now, and
Sure.
it'll be full of that you absolutely cannot say 15 years from now. And I am so curious to see what that's going to be.
True.
Like, what word is going to be a curse word or a slur in 15 years?
Yes,
I'm just imagining 7-Eleven having to change the name of Slurpees to something different because on the internet there it kind of tumbled into something that it wasn't.
See, that kind of it's kind of interesting, but really scares the hell out of me because what if like 10 years from now, I mentioned a tweet like ages ago, something about a notepad, but then I can't say the word notepad nowadays. It's like, oh shit, I cannot. It's like what's happening? They'll get canceled, and then yeah, it's crazy.
Well, honestly, like we're all getting a little more aware of that. Like if you said notepad 10 years ago, it was 10 years ago, and
yeah,
it's not like you said it recently.
Exactly.
Like,
people change a lot in 10 years, so like because
so like Stephen King is a perfect example. Stephen King, aside from being paid to literally write really messed up stuff, wrote some really messed up stuff that just doesn't hold up anymore. But if you talk to him now, he's actually evolved over time. And I think that's what's really important. Can you learn and can you make yourself better?
True game. True. So like living in America right now, you're moved out of your house, you're living in a house, you're an adult, you're capable of doing things by yourself. So yeah, like what's the typical day in the life of Greg Vinciguerra?
I wake up and go to a day job and then go home from the day job, scream auditions. I live with a bunch of roommates in a place that's too small, and I got a dream to just get a place of my own and some goddamn peace and quiet. I always like to joke that my soulmate is some goddamn peace and quiet because I'm one of those. It's like a sneaky introvert or maybe a sneaky extrovert, like an ambivert, I guess, where I like people. I like hanging out with people, but I want to be able to turn the people off when I don't feel like people.
That's fair. It's good to have like a space where you can like have to yourself because you feel like because you like being surrounded by people all the time, but you need like some little moments of reprieve.
Break.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to be able to cook bacon at 2:00 in the morning and not be judged for it.
Exactly. 2 o'clock bacon just hits different, man.
2:00 bacon. I'm telling you. Also, it's really cool to be in LA just because I personally like going to studios. I will always advocate for remote recording as an option because some people need it. Me, I'm not very tech in there. I'm pretty sure there's a post house here that just knows me for the 30 minutes of technical difficulties I'm gonna have connecting to stuff. Like even our Zoom session, it was like Zoom was okay. I'm going to update now. Have fun. I know you have an interview, but I just really need this update,
Yeah, it's always at the worst times. For me, they always update when I need to do a class on Zoom and I want to be there on time or even before, and I just hate it so much. But I was gonna say because you live in LA, which you just mentioned,
yes,
you're goddamn, I'm so jealous. In this massive voiceover hub. You're with CSD as well. Are you also? I'm guessing you're also SAG. Am I saying it right? SAG? Is it? Is it SAG or SAG?
SAG. Yes, like a saggy bag of flour. There's an old animation exercise where you have to animate a bag of flour like it's a living creature. So every time I think of sagging, I think of that. But SAG is how it is pronounced.
Oh yeah, and yeah, just asking. I was gonna say, I really like to know like what are different voice actors like way to approach this. But what is your approach to voicing characters?
Well, usually they just want my regular voice, and I'll draw from life experiences or I'll draw from things I witness in public. Like going outside and people watching is very fun because you get to basically spy on people. Yeah, it's like when an animator goes and draws people on the bus. Like I'm doing that to characters. And actually, I got cast as this dude I looked up to at one point. It was for a game called Backfirewall, which I just tweeted about. It's
Yeah.
really good. It's also about updates. Speaking of updates, highly recommend it. I'm not biased. The writing is excellent. And so, but the whole character was just basically this dude that I knew. And so it was like, okay, well, what would he do in this situation? How do I? It was like his cadence and his delivery, but with my voice print, which was really wild. And usually it's a little closer to home. So that one, well, maybe not the 243-year-old space alien, but like that one was actually, it was interesting because it was deliberately based on somebody else who was aware. Like he was aware that, like, as soon as I could talk about it, I was like, hey, I just got cast as a character that's basically you. He was like, that's the best character to play. So when it's like all a word like that, that is cool.
That's awesome, man. Like I love just being able to like play yourself. It gives you like a more chance to like give yourself some extra nuance to your performance. I love that. And
And
yeah,
then being friends is that's also like, how well do you really know your friends?
exactly. So yeah, we're running out of time here, but so I'll give you. So here's the last question of the interview. So it's a very important question, the best question. That's why I saved it for last. So if you had to give one piece of advice to any voice actor or aspiring voice actors, what would that be?
Just be a good person. I had an acting coach once tell me that if you're a nice person and you're very good at the job, you will book like 100% of the time. If you're a nice person who's kind of okay at the job, you'll get it like 75% of the time. But if you're mean and good at the job, will book less often than nice and mediocre at the job. So always be a good person who's easy to work with, and always respect your sound engineers because they are awesome and probably haven't slept in a very long time.
Very true. I wish them the best of sleep. But thank you. Yeah, but yeah, with that wholesome conclusion, this brings the interview to a close. Thank you so much, Greg, for coming on. Thanks for coming. Honestly, it's been we've been talking like back and forth for a while, so it's like really good to like finally speak to you now.
It's nice speaking to you too. Have a good one, all right, Vikram?
Oh wait, don't wait. Before you go, this is just so eager to leave. So before you go, do you have any social media or anything else you want to plug in the description? By all means, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Follow me on Twitter. Greg says stuff with an underscore between Greg and says stuff. He'll probably put it down in the comments section below. And play Backfirewall, play Frontiers Reach, support your indie game developers. As more in Sandrock too. My time at Sandrock's pretty like, yeah, that was a really addictive game. And so yeah, have always support indie artists and developers, and have a good night.
Sweet as. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for the next interview. See ya.